From the tides of legend, the dust of ancient stones, and the whispers of forgotten ages, one question remains unanswered. Who is Nefertiti, the iconic queen of ancient Egypt, and is there a greater mystery hidden beneath the sands and water? Somewhere near Giza, in the shadow of the Great Pyramids, another tale stirs, one of a submerged Sphinx, a monument not just lost to time, but waiting to reveal itself. A story half told, a history left untold, and a truth that has never fully surfaced. This is the story we begin with, a journey into the unknown, driven by curiosity, the quest to uncover long-buried secrets, and the search for something ancient that has been hidden in plain sight. Nefertiti, the queen who disappeared. Nefertiti, whose name means the beautiful one has come, entered the historical stage like a flash of brilliance, a sudden and transformative force. She was the wife of Pharaoh Akhenaten, the ruler who radically altered Egypt's religious and cultural landscape. Rather than adhering to the traditional gods, Akhenaten and Nefertiti instigated a religious revolution, elevating Aten, the sun disk, as the only true god. This monumental shift didn't just transform religious practice, it redefined the very identity of Egyptian society. But Nefertiti wasn't just a passive consort. Throughout this religious upheaval, she was an active participant. In the art and reliefs of the time, she's seen worshipping Aten alongside her husband, sometimes even standing in front of him, marking her as a figure of immense power in her own right. Yet, after a brief period of prominence, Nefertiti suddenly disappears from the historical record. No death announcement, no tomb, no conclusive end to her story, just silence. What happened to her? Why did history turn its gaze away from such a pivotal figure? The submerged Sphinx, a hidden monument. At the same time, a strange tale began to circulate, one that spoke of an underwater Sphinx lying beneath the waters near Giza, a monument not discovered by tourists or historians, but whispered about by the locals. This Sphinx, allegedly half-submerged in mud and water, was not simply a natural rock formation. It was said to bear symmetry and features too deliberate to be a random creation of nature. In the 1980s, some independent researchers and divers reported seeing this massive lion-bodied figure buried beneath the Nile's currents. These early photographs were grainy and inconclusive, but they sparked a growing intrigue. Could this be a hidden Sphinx, one that predates the known monuments of Egypt? The idea that this submerged Sphinx could be older than the pyramids is an unsettling thought. If true, it would completely upend the accepted timeline of Egyptian civilization. Egyptology, as a discipline, has long anchored the creation of the Great Sphinx around 2500 BCE, during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra. But what if another Sphinx, built long before the first pyramids, lay buried beneath the water? What would that mean for our understanding of Egypt's early history? The controversy and the divide, a timeline in question. As reports of this underwater Sphinx gained traction, a divide began to form between mainstream Egyptologists and a growing community of independent researchers. Traditional scholars insisted on evidence, peer-reviewed excavation, stratigraphy, carbon dating. They argued that Egypt is full of natural rock formations that resemble human or animal shapes, and the underwater Sphinx could simply be a misidentified rock formation shaped by the natural forces of wind, water, and time. But for others, the evidence was more compelling. Independent investigators, many trained in other scientific fields, such as engineering and geology, pointed to high-resolution satellite images, ground-penetrating radar, and sonar readings that showed unusual patterns beneath the water. These features appeared too regular, too smooth, to be simply a natural formation. Some even speculated that the submerged Sphinx could be part of a much older civilization, one that existed before the dynastic Egyptians ever carved their names into stone. The debate deepened. The idea that this Sphinx could predate the pyramids was not just provocative, it was revolutionary. If the underwater Sphinx was real, it could rewrite not only Egyptian history, but the entire history of human civilization. But the controversy didn't stop there. Those who supported the theory of an ancient, submerged monument began to point to other pieces of evidence, the deep weathering patterns on the Great Sphinx of Giza itself. These, they argued, couldn't be explained by wind erosion. They suggested that the Sphinx had endured rainfall, heavy rainfall, a feature absent from the Giza Plateau for thousands of years. Could both the Great Sphinx and the submerged Sphinx be part of an even older, forgotten civilization? The enigma of Nefertiti's disappearance. While the submerged Sphinx remained a subject of debate, Nefertiti's disappearance grew even more mysterious. Some theorists suggested that after Akhenaten's death, Nefertiti may have ruled Egypt in her own right, perhaps even assuming the throne. Evidence from inscriptions referring to a female pharaoh named Nefertiti, or a ruler named Nefertiti under a different name, fueled this speculation. Could Nefertiti have taken over the throne in the twilight of Akhenaten's reign, only to disappear from the records? As the years passed, the mystery deepened. Some believe Nefertiti's legacy was intentionally erased. The revolution she and her husband led was one of radical change, and after their fall, it would have been in the interests of their successors to erase the memory of a queen who wielded such power. Her name was scratched off monuments, her statues destroyed, her role in history diminished. But despite these efforts, Nefertiti's image, her beauty, her power, her defiance, endured. Theories of Nefertiti's hidden legacy. There are those who believe that Nefertiti didn't disappear at all. Instead, she lived on in the shadows, possibly as the mysterious co-regent who ruled after Akhenaten's death. The idea that Nefertiti ruled as a pharaoh, possibly under the name of Nefertiti's co-regent, Smenkhare, remains one of the most tantalizing theories. Though this theory is speculative and remains unconfirmed, the possibility that Nefertiti transitioned from consort to ruler, from wife to sovereign, adds an extraordinary dimension to her legacy. Nefertiti's absence from history could have been part of a political move, a necessary silencing of a powerful woman who had once reshaped Egypt's entire spiritual system. Her disappearance could have been part of an effort to erase a key figure in the sun-worshipping revolution of Akhenaten's reign. Yet, despite the erasure, Nefertiti's image endures, both as a symbol of regal beauty and as a leader who wielded considerable political influence. The legacy of the underwater Sphinx. What lies beneath? The debate over the submerged Sphinx has continued into the 21st century, with sonar scans and radar surveys hinting at a figure submerged in the depths near Giza. Some theorists argue that this Sphinx could date back to a time when the Sahara was green and fertile, a time before Egypt became the desert land we know today. In these theories, the Sphinx could be part of a forgotten civilization, a precursor to the known Egyptian dynasties. Geologists have noted that erosion patterns on the underwater Sphinx match the kind of weathering caused by water, not just wind or sand. These marks resemble the deep grooves found on the original Great Sphinx at Giza, further suggesting that this hidden monument may be much older than the accepted timeline of Egyptian history. Could Egypt have been home to another civilization, a culture that left no written records, no papyrus scrolls, but only stone monuments like the submerged Sphinx? If true, it would redefine everything we know about the beginnings of Egyptian civilization. These ideas, though speculative, offer a glimpse into a past that remains tantalizingly out of reach, a past that could rewrite human history. The underwater Sphinx represents not just a mystery of stones, but a mystery of human memory, lost time, and forgotten achievements. The unsolved mystery and its enduring fascination. Whether or not the underwater Sphinx is ever excavated or confirmed, its existence, or the possibility of its existence, already holds immense value. It challenges the mainstream narratives and invites us to reconsider how we understand the past. It reminds us that history is not a closed book. It is an open puzzle, one that requires careful exploration, questioning, and, above all, curiosity. For Nefertiti, her legacy remains similarly elusive. We may never fully understand what happened to her, or how her rule fit into the greater tapestry of Egyptian history. But her story, her beauty, her power, her influence, continues to captivate. And the underwater Sphinx, whether a true monument or just another myth, continues to stir the imagination of those who dare to ask, what if? What if the past is deeper than we ever imagined? What if the history we know is only a fraction of the story? As long as questions like these remain, as long as mysteries like the underwater Sphinx and Nefertiti's fate linger on the edges of our knowledge, the past will never be fully buried. It will continue to speak to us, in whispers through stones, through water, through the stories we pass down from one generation to the next. And perhaps that is the greatest legacy of all, to keep searching, to keep wondering, and to never stop listening.